Greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet, and today we are going to be talking about keeping up with the news. Now, I, probably better than most people, understand just how difficult it is to keep up with even a portion of everything that is going on in the world today. I do this for a living, and I literally spend 12 hours a day on social media platforms and websites, constantly aggregating news, trying to figure out what is the most important stuff of the day that I can put into a nice tight little package and I can deliver to my audience so that you don't have to spend hours a day aggregating and looking through news trying to figure out what the hell is important. I get it. Most of us don't have a hell of a lot of free time, aside from the 8, 10, 12 hours a day that we work, to do other stuff. And this is my job, so I'm doing my part. Now, I do acknowledge that I occasionally go off the beaten path, have a little fun, maybe, I don't know, engage in some salty news humor about thoroughly enjoyable stories like people quitting their jobs by text message. You know, I need a little release every once in a while, too. I'm human. So, what I would like to do today is make up for yesterday, give you a broad overview of a bunch of different stories of what's going on with labor in the workforce today, and this way you will be well armed with more facts and a little bit of knowledge to go back out into the world and deal with all the knuckleheads in your lives who just seem to think that everything is bad because Biden give free money and demon rats bad. All right? Buckle up, everybody. I'm going to compress it all for you nice and tight. Here we go. So today, let's kick things off down in Alabama, where there was a little unexpected good news. Amazon workers get a do-over in union election. The NLRB has ordered a new union election for Amazon workers in Bessemer, Alabama, based on objections to the first vote that took place in April. The move, announced Monday, is a blow to Amazon, which spent about a year aggressively campaigning for warehouse workers in Bessemer to reject the union, which they ultimately did, by a wide margin. You know, because Amazon spent over a year aggressively campaigning against it. And for the record, when you have billions upon billions of dollars and damn near unlimited resources, your ability to be aggressive far outpaces and surpasses that of all of your labor combined. Just thought I'd throw that out to put that last line in context. Amazon spokesperson Kelly Nantel called the decision disappointing. Quote, "Our employees have always had the choice of whether or not to join a union, even though we spent more than a year aggressively campaigning against them joining that union, and they overwhelmingly chose to not join the union earlier this year. Again, because we literally squeezed the shit out of them as their employers, made them work extra hours, forced them to watch anti-union videos, and did a whole bunch of union-busting propaganda all over the greater Bessemer, Alabama area. It's disappointing that the NLRB has now decided that those votes shouldn't count. You know, the ones that were literally made under duress and manipulation by the multi-billion-dollar global conglomerate known as Amazon. Meanwhile, Stuart Applebaum, president of the union, saw the NLRB decision as a victory. Quote, "Today's decision confirms what we were saying all along, that Amazon's intimidation and interference prevented workers from having a fair say in whether they wanted a union in their workplace. And as the regional director has indicated, that is both unacceptable and illegal. Amazon workers deserve to have a voice at work, which can only come from a union." Nice, I gotta tell you, I actually didn't see this one coming, so this was just some added bonus and a pleasant surprise. Now, as to what happens next, I'm not sure. Of course, I will revisit this for you when more information comes around. Up next in our quick race to the bottom, we head to Florida. Why? Because that's where most races to the bottom just naturally end. Florida state senator files bill to allow employers to offer sub-minimum training wage. Now, before I continue reading the article, I'm going to have to point out the obvious here as somebody who understands at least the basics of the English language. The word minimum means the least, no less than. Just think about it for a second and then we'll move on. Florida State Senator Jeff Brandis is looking to make a change to Florida's minimum wage laws that would allow employers to offer a, quote, training wage, which would be below the state's current minimum wage, which again is grammatically and logistically impossible. Brandis, a Republican from Pinellas County, filed Senate Joint Resolution 382, which would amend the state's constitution, specifically Section 24 of Article 10, the section establishing the state's minimum wage, SJR 382, which could be considered during the 2022 legislative session, calls for the state legislature to establish a, quote, minimum training wage rate less than the minimum wage rate. Under the proposal, employers would be able to offer the training wage to any employee for the first 6 months of their employment. Why would State Senator Jeff Brandis, a Republican from Florida, be doing this? I would assume it's because he hates the working class and the majority of his constituency are business owners and corporations who are much more concerned with having a 20% profit margin than they are with other people being able to live. Because fuck those people, they're just minimum wage employees anyway. Let's pay them less than the minimum wage. Yeah, go America. Brandis made a similar attempt in the 2021 legislative session where he proposed a, quote, reduced minimum wage rate for prisoners in the state correctional system, workers convicted of a felony, workers under 21, and other hard-to-hire employees. The senator's attempts at offering a pay rate below the minimum wage come after Floridians passed Amendment 2 in the 2020 election, which raised the state's minimum wage to $10 per hour in September, then raises it $1 an hour each year until it reaches $15 an hour in 2026. Now, of course, nothing says I'm a conservative patriot more than being a state representative who hears the will of the people through a public referendum to raise the minimum wage and then tells everybody to go fuck themselves, ignores the will of the people, and instead decides to push through a constitutional amendment to pay people less. Again, why would State Senator Brandis do this? Because he fucking hates people. And for the record, those of you watching this, regardless of whether you are conservatives or liberals, whether you are Democrats or Republicans, you are first people and workers. And Senator Brandis does not give a fuck if you live or die. And now, just to show you what that sort of attitude from our elective representatives does to the working class and the, quote, labor pool, on the whole, I bring you this little ditty. Goodbye to the job, how the pandemic changed Americans' attitude to work. Millions of workers have been leaving jobs that offer long hours and low pay, and for many, the release has been exhilarating. To experts who study the history and cultural role of work in the United States, the fact that this moment occurred during the pandemic is largely unsurprising. Millions of Americans have long been exhausted by harsh working conditions, long hours, low pay, and little flexibility. And many, especially those who are considered essential workers, have been burnt out by the pandemic. And also ground down into insensibility, because that's what happens when you're forced to work 80 hours a week under duress during a pandemic so that corporations can record record billion-dollar profits. Quote, people are saying that they are systematically underpaid. They get a ridiculously low share of the value that they produce over the course of the day. They're doing most of the work, and yet they're treated badly and receive wages that they cannot live on. Now, if you have any questions as to why people are feeling underappreciated or underpaid, please feel free to pause this video, go rewind about 2 minutes, and then review the part where I tell you about State Senator Brandon in Florida and how douchebags in power want to give people as little pay as possible, literally to the point of them starving to death, just so their fucking corporate overlords can make $5.2 billion in annual profit instead of $5.1 billion in annual profit. Benjamin Honeycutt, a historian at the University of Iowa who has studied the role that work plays in the lives of Americans for decades, describes it as a mass reevaluation of the promise that a job can be more than a means to an end and can deeply fulfill us as human beings. Work, as we know it, is a modern invention, Honeycutt points out, a product of the Industrial Revolution. The revolution separated work life from home life and made it a distinct part of people's lives. While the payoff for society was huge, it also made work the dominant factor in our lives, with some people working over 70 hours and having fewer days off. And of course, the capitalist class is totally okay with this. This is what they have been working towards for literally half a century, spending billions upon billions of dollars to gut labor laws, to buy senators, to buy congressional reps, to buy entire political parties so that the table is consistently skewed in their favor so they can make as much as possible while you live as shitty a life as possible. Honeycutt notes that progress in the early 20th century was defined as higher wages and shorter working hours. Notable economists predicted that this trend would continue and people would work less. The famed economist John Maynard Keynes predicted that by 2030, people would be working 15-hour work weeks. Oh, sweet child of summer. Oh, that's adorable. It's a shame you couldn't live to be like 120 and see the complete pile of shit that the United States of America, and more broadly, the entire globe, has become as we go hurtling back towards feudalism at the goddamn speed of sound. Quote, free time was seen as that place where human beings could flourish. Work was good, but it's still a means to an end. The end being making a living and the promise of free time to enrich life so that we become better parents and better participants in our community. Oh, that would have been nice. That's the real dream, but where's the profitability in that? I mean, again, we are a fully capitalist nation, and the only thing, and I do mean the only fucking thing that counts to the people who have all the resources and all the power is making line go up. And it does not matter how many of us have to starve, have to be homeless, have to die, and have our corpses just chucked up onto the altar and thrown into the volcano to appease the great golden bull god so that the line can fucking climb even higher. This is where we are. This is why people are just tapping out. They're just quitting. They're done. And now, before I go, I would like to close on this little ditty. Recently, I've seen a whole lot of news stories and a whole lot of press about how shoplifting and stealing from retailers is on an upswing and going to be hitting an all-time high, and about how we literally have to put fucking soldiers with AR-15s in shopping malls to protect all the private property because theft is just the implosion of society. Well, here's a little graphic to remind you once again that the biggest thieves, the people who steal the most, and the people who are held accountable the least are the people who pay workers. It's bosses, it's companies, it's corporations. They are stealing from hundreds of millions of American workers every single year, but you never hear about them being in trouble, getting arrested, or going to jail. No, of course not. Why? Because our government, which creates laws that determine what is and is not a crime, have gone out of their way to determine that this is not criminal. It's merely something to be investigated and possibly fined, but no individual will ever be held accountable for stealing from poor people. So what does all of this mean for you, the average viewer at home, the fellow member of the working class? Well, it means that the fight is not done. It has just started. It is still going on. Yes, I know all the marketing is past. Ooh, Striketober is over. Ooh, the labor report came out and unemployment is plummeting. Ergo, we must be fully back open for business and just like it used to be back in the day. Nah, that's not a thing. Don't believe that bullshit. Don't believe the hype. Right now, the month between Thanksgiving and Christmas, this is the month where a lot of manufacturers and the majority of retailers, their entire year is made or lost. Me personally, if I get a vote, I'd rather see most of them fucking lose. So do me a favor, if you're gonna do any shopping this month for toys or presents for loved ones, number one, please spend as little as possible and save that money for yourselves. You're gonna need it because, well, food. So with whatever shopping you are planning on doing, buy locally. Buy from people who build stuff themselves with their own hands that don't work for a corporation. Go on to Etsy or any number of dozens of websites where people actually make stuff, where it's actually good, where you actually get value for your purchase because it's not mass manufactured crap made out of what is essentially slave labor and the shittiest fucking resources that could possibly use to build anything so that it's all disposable so that you have to buy more so that the line keeps going up. Fuck these people, fuck their line, and fuck their profits. Look out after each other, after other members of the working class, because, once again, none of these other people are gonna do it for you. Until next time, my name is James, I am from the internet, and I am out. Peace.